You know, if you all are getting this, and if you are getting this, we'll give it like a 4 minutes to let everybody gather in. We'll do some shout outs. I haven't got any shout outs done today. You know, I like to do my daily shout outs. Make sure that you like this video. That Mike G, what's going on? And it's getting no God, no managers. Anna getting that $1 billion. I don't think she's a billionaire yet. If she keeps saying stupid stuff like this, I'm not sure she'll ever be one. V and Alexander, what's going on? Jesse Dominguez, happy Wednesday. Can I make shorter segments? My commentary is sometimes short, it's sometimes long. It just that's how this set up. We make segments that cater to all of the viewers. We don't like to aim for one specific viewer. So some people actually like to watch the show at work. So I always try to make sure to include a longer segment or two throughout the day. In other segments, I'll do at least between 10 to 15 minutes. But I'm not a buzzword, platitude. Let me get my point in and only give a shallow analysis because I'm worried that if I give any more of an analysis that people might be offended by it. I'm not really that type of person. So most of the time, if you see a video by me, now if I'm giving an update, like a really quick update, that's different. That might be about 6 to 8 minutes, but videos where we go in depth on these topics, you're going to see they're going to be at least 10 minutes, at least. Other videos with more complicated topics will be longer by necessity, and also because, like I said, some people like listening to longer videos on the road, like listening to longer videos at work, and so I try to cater to both. Mike S, she'll get hired by MSNBC. Man, I don't know. I think she left because she wasn't getting the FaceTime she wanted. And after hearing half of her analyses, I'm not surprised she isn't getting the FaceTime or didn't get the FaceTime she wanted. That man Niko at it again. Soul Eater Evan. Yeah, man. I'm not. I promise you. I'm trying to be nicer. I'm trying to channel my inner aloha. I really am. But Anna make it very hard. She makes it very, very hard. Over Massaguah. Damn, what she say now? We're going to get into it. Christopher Harris, thank you for keeping the truth front and center. No problem. It's my absolute pleasure. Robert Tierney, hi from New York. Tulsi's going to be in New York next week on Monday. They already got the venues locked up. They're supposed to be announced. They're going to send them to me, and we're going to announce them and let everybody know where they can find her at for next week. Don't trust Anna Kasparian. That will lie. Long is good, Niko, but elaborate on topics. I do elaborate on topics. It's the whole. If I make them long, that's what I'm doing. Was just watching TYT, and Anna looked particularly upset. Oh, was she live? Damn it, I missed it. Because she's getting trashed on Twitter. She got like 5 people out there defending her. Anna is not dumb. Anna is bought. Can she be both, though? It could be potentially both. I don't know. Mandy Sadowski, love your shows. Always different from views from the others. Thank you very much. Dana Fairbanks, lead with love, Niko. Always. Love of the truth. David Meisel. Don't be nice, Niko. Tell it like it is. Tell it like a T.I. is. I try. I mean, you can be. I try to be respectful. You know what I'm saying? Before we get started, yo, real quick, like the video. Like it. We got like 99 people watching right now. So 99. There should be 99 likes right now. Share the video. And make sure you're still subscribed, because in all likelihood you may not be, because we just get people unsubscribed the moment that we post anything to YouTube whatsoever. And a lot of people have been reaching out in the comment sections and DMs and otherwise to say that they've been unsubscribed. So make sure that you are subscribed. All right. So with that being said, people, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa, and I'm your host, Niko House. I have to apologize real quick to all of my followers on Twitter and my subscribers here at YouTube. I have had a long-standing pledge to myself that I don't get in lengthy arguments and debates on Twitter with people who clearly know how to use a camera. Now, with writers, I get it. Writers are not necessarily as capable of arguing on the spot in front of the cameras and, you know, making it, because that's why for some people, that's why they write. Get it. I'll go into a little scuffle with them back and forth. But not Anna Kasparian. I'm not you're going to mention me on Twitter. If you're going to lie on Twitter, then we can have a conversation on camera, because Twitter is a public forum. The debate is no less public than it would be if we had it on camera. And that way, when your nonsense gets called out, you don't try and find someone else's random tweet and you go find someone else's analyses real quick to try and bolster your nonsense. If you have a unique and independent thought because you feel this way for a legitimate reason, like if you're going to claim to not like a person, a candidate, a policy even, then you should already have a litany of reasons why you don't like that person with evidence to back it up. But if you don't like a person and then you have to find things because you never did your research to begin with, you may have did some shallow surface level research only to confirm your own biases. But if you don't have anything, you just don't like the person, now you're trying to find something, then that's a problem for me. So that's why I like having conversations on camera. But I messed up, y'all. I went back and forth for Anna on Twitter for a little bit. My apologies. I won't have it happen again. That's why I was like, nah, I'm not doing this with you today. We're going to do this video. But once again, the offer still stands to debate me, but I bet you won't, will you, Anna? Because you had the chance. Remember, all of a sudden, remember I was in California, bought a one-way ticket specifically to debate you. Got there, you was quiet. Remember, we couldn't find you. Didn't know where you was at. Milk Car and Anna was like, oh, man. I called up my 2 police friends. I ain't got a lot of them, but I got a couple. We say, hey, y'all, can I put an APB out on Anna Kasparian? We can't find her. She was so loud on Twitter a couple days ago. Then she vanished out of nowhere. And like last time, I'm sure you'd be more than unwilling to debate the topic of Tulsi Gabbard's progressivism versus a Warren. Okay, so there has been this ongoing sentiment as of late that Warren's creation of the Consumer Protection Bureau, you know, that's her baby, right? And it is a good thing. It could be better, but it is a good thing. I don't like, you know, using absolutism when it comes to things like the Consumer Protection Bureau or even the Department of Homeland Security, for example. There are good elements to it. It is necessary. But let's not take it too far, okay? Let's not do all that, because some people be taking stuff a little bit too far. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren definitely should be proud of the Consumer Protection Bureau, but the Consumer Protection Bureau does not supersede the actions, the personal votes, the personal advocacy, policy advocation or lack thereof of Elizabeth Warren. Because even the Consumer Protection Bureau, a little bit shady at times. You know, they're very, very similar to a lot of government agencies that are ran by politicians who take money from lobbyists. They do a lot of shallow things so they can say, yay, we did it. but not like major. They don't go after the major players, which are causing consumer protection issues to begin with. Now, because this has been a hard liner for the Warren people, and Anna clearly is a Warren person. She's defended her, Warren used to be a Republican, and she said some things like 3 years ago, and I'm sure she's evolved from them, and we have to give her a chance because people's backgrounds can influence their opinions. Dan Cabell, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. But yeah, so I said, cool. Because people kept tagging. I said, let me hear what Anna had to say. Because I had tried to tune her ass out, but people love drama. So this is what Anna had to say. I'm going to pull it up real fast. So Anna put this little tweet out. I think you all can see it now. So she said, in response to someone else, by the way, she said in response to somebody else, that was asking basically how can you accept that Elizabeth Warren's transformation into a progressive, and it's not even like a huge transformation into a progressive. It is like the barest of minimums. Like I said, I don't consider Elizabeth Warren progressive, and I believe most of the country or most of the progressive movement does not. But enough do, in my opinion, that it is a problem. Anyway, the tweet says, Anna Kasparian, how can you accept Elizabeth Warren's transformation into a progressive, but not Tulsi Gabbard? Warren said on your show she would accept money from big donors. Anna's response to this, weirdly enough, was the answer is simple. Actions speak louder than words. Warren created Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Tulsi voted to weaken it. Tulsi claims to want to protect journalists, but then proceeds to ban me from interviewing her due to mild critique of her record. What? Actions speak louder than words. So just out of curiosity, was the action of endorsing Bernie Sanders, did that not speak louder than the action of Warren's opportunistic backing of Hillary Clinton, knowing that Bernie was the progressive? Right? Is that not action speaking louder? You think any of the money she takes and the opportunity she is constantly chasing after have anything to do with that? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm just confused. Maybe I don't know what the hell action means. The definition of an action may have changed. Real quick, we got a super chat from Cheryl Tyler. TYT just sent me an email and it gushes over Elizabeth Warren's policies. I told them to leave me alone. Thank God for MCSC and other truth tellers. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Obi Alfred, get him, bro. You Don Stritz. So then she said, I'm going to get to the Consumer Protection Bureau too, but give me a second. We're going to go to the other part first. Tulsi claims to want to protect journalists. Anna, she wants to protect journalists who do journalism, participate in legitimate journalism work, and unfortunately, that does include you. Now, what's interesting is, weirdly enough, Anna Kasparian is comparing herself to Julian Assange. Julian Assange is in a hospital, potentially about to lose his life because of exposing all of the literal crimes and unethical dealings of the Democratic Party, Republican Party too, but the apathy towards Julian Assange has come from what he's done to the Democratic Party as of late. The same exposure the Democratic Party has faced as of late, you completely ignore all that and say, but Trump's so much worse than the Democratic Party. I mean, he's a dickhead. And I know the Democratic Party's still elections, literally, but let's never talk about election integrity. But even still, which, by the way, if she was banned, I don't know about it, because from what I understand, Cenk always does those interviews one-on-one, and I haven't seen any information to the contrary. And apparently the rest of the network wasn't that upset by it because, well, the next week, Cenk brought her back on and gave her an even longer interview. It was a great interview, by the way. And Anna's claimed that the critique of Tulsi's record by her was mild. Really? Mild? I'm not saying she's a Hindu nationalist, but she's kind of a Hindu nationalist. I mean, I know that Bernie literally said that he would use drones in the same capacity, but hey, she's not progressive on foreign policy. Bernie is, though. And I know that Elizabeth Warren literally is advocating for green bombs. That's a hyperbole. But basically, she writes an entire article dedicated to strengthening the military to fight climate change. But according to Anna Kasparian, Tulsi isn't a progressive. Actions speak louder than words, though, I guess. How many, just out of curiosity, just one more time, I know I'll go over this. How many of these pieces of legislation has Elizabeth Warren, introduced into the Senate? I'm not saying she had to introduce all of them, but how many has she introduced into the Senate while being a senator? Just out of curiosity. All these ideas. She has a lot of them. I know, once again, what Bernie is going to do when he gets into office. I see the legislation. It's right there in front of us. I know what Tulsi is going to do when she gets into office. I see the legislation. It's right there in front of us. Pretending as if somehow Elizabeth Warren, because she introduced the Bureau, the CPB, and didn't, like, just because she introduced that doesn't mean that we're just supposed to forget everything she hasn't done, one, and then everything she's gotten wrong. And then her lack of demand for accountability. Like, it's one thing if you are kind of like a grandstander and you are pointing figures and then you're demanding accountability, right? That's one thing. It's another thing if you are not a grandstander and you may not be advocating for accountability because you're not sure of all the ins and outs of that particular situation. So you're learning and you'll make your vote based on what information you get. But that's not Warren. Warren was trying to yell from the rooftops between 2012 and 2013, 2014 about the banks. And then when it came down to it, all that yelling didn't come with this person needs to be held accountable. This group of people needs to be held accountable. When she created the Consumer Protection Bureau, what has happened to all of the people, all of the banks? The Consumer Protection Bureau should have been pursuing the breaking up of these big banks. They should have been suing for all of the people who were misled and lied to give them their houses back, to forgive their debt. But instead, you allowed money to basically be unchallenged, money to be taken away from the citizen and go unchallenged back into the pockets of the banks who failed. But yeah, hey, you're a capitalist though, right? You're not even a real capitalist. You're really a socialist. You're all about income redistribution as long as it's coming out of the pocket. And then Elizabeth Warren, Miss Consumer Protection, bought up a bunch of houses after she refused to hold banks accountable and even ask. I understand how the game goes. You can't get everything you want as a senator. I get it. But you didn't even ask for accountability. It was just a bunch of grandstanding. So, Anna Kasparian is really upset that that's the reason that Tulsi can't evolve on being progressive is literally because, well, Tulsi was mean to me, so I don't think she could be a progressive. And Elizabeth Warren was nice to me, and therefore, I'm nice to her. So, yeah, that's not a good look. It's not a good look, Anna. But let's continue. So, I want to talk about what she's referring to. She said that Tulsi weakened the Protection Bureau. I, however, don't tend to believe things that Anna said just because Anna said them, right? I think that most of us can probably agree at this point that that when Anna Kasparian says something, we should probably do some research on it because It's not like Anna does a lot of research on her own, so I decided to research it. So I go to the source first. Tulsi's pretty transparent in the things she votes for and doesn't vote for. So, of course, Tulsi's website did have it. She voted to strengthen the Consumer Protection Bureau. And she's done this multiple times. But there was one particular instance where she voted for something that it was like a huge matter of controversy because it was about dealing with the loans that people get when they get cars. And there was somehow racism was thrown in it. Not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just saying somehow it became primarily about race. Even though, we'll get into it. So I want to talk to you all first about what Anna is talking about as far as the Consumer Protection Bureau and her voting to weaken it. Let me pull that article up real quick. So this is from Maui Time. And by the way, Anna, it may help if you didn't go to Christine Graylow, who was like the most incredulous journalist that you can possibly go to for information. Stop letting her. I see y'all follow each other. That's cute. Let me go to Christine Graylow for all my smears because I really can't think of anything on myself. And if I go to the woman who literally has an entire blog dedicated to smearing Tulsi with lies, verifiable lies, you go into a woman with a restraining order to smear against the whole Gabbard family had to put a restraining order on this person, and this is just the Gabbard family. Just saying. Maybe, and she got fired from her last job. I'm just saying. Maybe you shouldn't be using her as a main source. But hey, get your sources how you want them. Whatever you can use to back up your lies, I totally get it. I understand. So let's read where she got this from. This is from the Maui Time. It says, this is November 15th, 2015. Tulsi Gabbard votes for controversial bill allowing racial discrimination in car buying. That's a pretty inflammatory title. But when do journalists actually research bills anyway? So this title says, there's this November 20th Huffington Post story that's getting shared around social media. It carries the incendiary title, Meet the 88 Democrats who just voted to enable racial discrimination in car buying. Wow. That's once again, it's a pretty inflammatory title. I hope it lives up to it. And it packs quite a punch. The story concerns House Resolution 1737 specifically, which is a very simple bill that negates a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau bulletin from 2013. That helps ensures auto lenders don't discriminate on the basis of gender, race, religion, age, and so on. It's actually, whatever. Like I said, we're going to get to it. So it goes on to say, the bill passed in the House of Representatives on November 18th by a vote of 332 to 96. As the Huffington Post story noted, 88 Democrats voted for it. One of those Democrats was Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who represents Hawaii's District 23, and she was also one of the bill's co-sponsors. Ooh. That's a big deal, Tulsi. I hope you can stand by this co-sponsorship. Now, co-sponsoring bills like this get a little mucky, so I really hope that you have a statement about this that we can potentially go to. Oh, hold on. She does have a statement. Where she literally says, I have been a strong advocate for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and have supported their work throughout my time in Congress, which she has verifiably, which is why Anna had to go to this specifically, because it seemed on the surface pretty easy thing to go after. I heard from many Hawaii auto dealerships owners, which I can actually understand, because they have a weird economy out there. So I understand exactly what she's why she said this, and I'm explaining that in a second too. Who expressed frustration and concern about this particular CFPB rule and the lack of information on what caused it, how they are to comply with it. and the unintended negative consequences it would have on our communities. I requested the details and analyses of the CFPB, or that the CFPB took into account before issuing this guidance, but received no response. That's why I joined 54 of my Democratic colleagues, including 16 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Oh, and Congressional Hispanic Caucus, in co-sponsoring H.R. 1737, a bipartisan bill that would ensure that the CFPB regulations related to auto loans would be transparent, allow a public comment period, and would share information about why the regulation is necessary and the impact it will have. This legislation only affects indirect lenders, such as auto lenders and community banks, and would allow the CFPB to continue to do its job while engaging the community in the process. I support, this is all Tulsi's statement, I support the CFPB's work to prevent discrimination, which should not be tolerated in any form, but this policy would actually have a negative impact on all consumers, including minorities, by restricting access to credit and eliminating the buyer's ability to receive a discounted loan, which is true, by the way. The Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division is committed to protecting consumers from discrimination, and the Congressional Budget Office has stated that this legislation will not in any way inhibit enforcement of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. So why was it pitched as just being racist? Why was it pitched? Because, isn't it interesting that basically when you start demanding transparency, when you start calling out companies, I am never, ever I'm never going to advocate for a government entity to have a lack of transparency with any decision making, because even when the decision seems like it is being made in good faith, and it even really very well being made with good intentions, it doesn't necessarily always mean that it may be good with good intentions. It doesn't always necessarily mean that the data matches the conclusion or the solution, right? So Tulsi, in response to 1737, in response to a lack of transparency, in response to and they called this, once again, the Republican bill. Not the case. The support was bipartisan. The co-sponsorship had members from the Congressional Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus as well. This bill was made in response to a lack of transparency. Now, I want to real quick show you a quick summary. So this is a quick summary of the bill. Now it says Section 2 declares without force or effect the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau CFPB Bulletin 2013, referring to what that article was referring to. Lending in compliance with Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Hold on, let me read that again. That sounded really weird. Declares without force or effect the CFPB Bulletin 2013-02, published, declared without one. That's kind of a weird statement. Hold on. Oh, basically what Section 2 says, when I went back and read it, this is a weird way of wording it, but what it does is it says that regarding this issue, specifically, the CFPB, because they did not provide the analysis that multiple Congress people asked for, they can't make legal decisions, federal lawsuits or otherwise, about this particular issue, until this entire thing is concluded, right? And once again, the equal rights people, they all said, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act and the people who are supposed to enforce that, all said that this legislation was in compliance with what this bill is trying to do. Now, Section 3 says it amends the Consumer Financial Protection Act of 2010 to direct the CFPB when proposing and issuing guidance primarily related to indirect financing. What's wrong with that? Provide public notice and a comment period before issuing guidance on the final form. What's wrong with that? Should we not be included on a debate that affects our lives? Make publicly available all information relied on by the CFPB. What's wrong with that? Provide your methodology. When at least, if CNN is going to put out a poll to lie to us, at least they make public some methodology. I don't know if it's the real methodology, but some methodology on how they came to the conclusions that they made. Transparency, once again, redact any information exempt from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. Consult with the Board of Governors, the Federal Reserve System, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Department of Justice. All you have to do is consult with them. That's it. Not that those entities would decide whether or not their regulations get passed, but just consult. That way the information is circulated as much as humanly possible. I don't see a problem with that. Study the costs and impacts of the guidance to the consumers and women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, and small businesses, including consumers and small businesses in rural areas. Okay, so wait a minute. I'm confused. Man, hold up. Wait a minute. Man, it's crazy that every time somebody like Anna, for example, smears Tulsi, I'm like, yo, Tulsi might have been a lot more progressive for a little bit longer than we expected. A lot of us thought like maybe she switched to became completely progressive in 2015. It seems like she's been this way. Like she might have had some missteps due to a lack of education, but it seems like when she's presented with information that she makes the right choices. Now I'm explaining something to you. What Anna refuses to discuss, what that article also refused to mention, because it's a pretty important aspect of the entire conversation, by the way. This only deals with indirect auto lending. Indirect auto. Now, what is the difference between indirect auto lending and so auto lender, or excuse me, dealerships, oftentimes, as you all have probably figured out by now, they go through third-party lenders, right? Lenders that they get kickbacks through. It allows them to have a little bit more control over interest rate and the years. Not really. I don't necessarily agree with their tactics, right? But that's not the important part. Did you notice something that's really weird in this summary, or in the 2013 bulletin, by the way, which I went over and you can research. It doesn't even exist anymore at all, but that was something that Trump did. But it only discusses indirect auto loans, which would cut competition for whom? That means I have to go directly to Wells Fargo. That means I have to go directly to Bank of America. That means I have to go directly to these same people who have been known to steal money from us, hike up interest rates, hit us with fees, difficult to track and combat. And it also maintains the assumption that banks are not inherently racist. Also, you see anything in this lending act, or this lending bulletin, indirect auto lending bulletin, about Equifax, Kasparian, TransUnion, and Experian, with the racist credit practices that they have. They went for the lowest hanging fruit, didn't provide enough. Think about it like this. I believe that there are some racist practices that third-party lenders do. I believe that. But guess what? Do you know why they're able to do that and get away with it? Because it is par for the course. It is the norm. Racist lending practices have been existing all throughout time through the credit companies giving racist credit scores through banks being mainstream banks, big banks using those credit scores to then justify interest rates being higher than people who are white, or interest rates for women being higher than men, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so these lenders are able to do this because the bigger players have always been able to do this, and it would not hurt the small lenders to also participate in this activity. So like, it's important to understand and keep perspective that if you're going to, this is why, by the way, Tulsi asked and said, I'll go back to her statement. I heard from many of Hawaii's auto dealership owners who expressed frustration and concern about this particular CFPB rule and the lack of information on what caused it. Lack of information. This is Tulsi. This is 2015. Same person in 2015 demanding transparency. The same person in 2019 demanding transparency. This is what you call, see, Anna's a Warren fan. So I'm not sure if she understands what this may look like, what it may manifest in the presidential campaign. But this is what I like to call ideological consistency, Anna. A lot of the times, even if I don't know something directly about Tulsi, I already know what to search for because I already know what her answer's probably, the reason she probably did something. Once I see the legislation, I can already probably tell you the reason she voted for it, and it probably differs from the mainstream narrative. Especially when the article you uses an inflammatory title, pretending as if it was legalizing discrimination, when in actuality, this particular legislation was the opposite. It was, hey, do you know who is going to be primarily affected by this? Those small businesses in really weird and specific situations. For example, how often do you think third-party lenders get to discriminate against black people in like rural Iowa? Right? Like, and you're introducing legislation that's basically saying you don't have to comply with this. There, you know, and it's not, it was an incomplete analysis. I'm not saying that something shouldn't have been done, but I just told you what I thought should have been done. And I think that Tulsi probably would have agreed with this, which is why she's always been a staunch advocate of the Consumer Protection Bureau. If we're going to go after someone, how about we go after the banks, after the credit companies that are enabling this behavior from the very top? And that's my biggest complaint about all of this, whether it be Anna's nonsensical statement that somehow introducing legislation demanding transparency and analyses in public discourse before a decision was made by the CFBP, like maybe that's part of it. But the other part is that the idea that the Consumer Protection Bureau has been even mostly great. Like, it hasn't been great. It's been pretty good. It's been racial inequality, financial inequality, skyrocketed while the Consumer Protection Bureau was around, right? After its creation. Actually, it started spiking up even more after its creation without a single major public reform offered. Like, that was like wall-to-wall news. Like, no, we have to do something about this now. Has the Consumer Protection Bureau stepped in any capacity when it comes to wages? Why did, for example, on the other side, the banking side, why did AOC and Bernie have to introduce legislation to cap interest rates at 15%? Oh, that's right, because y'all haven't done shit about big banks. What a surprise. Warren wags her finger once again, hasn't done anything about it. And the entity attached to her is doing the same. It's interesting. The idea, like, it's weird that Anna's like, actions speak louder than words. What actions did Warren take? What actions did Warren take? What action Not wag my finger. Tulsi, she can wag her finger too. I can wag my finger and you can as well. That's why I find it ironic that we're talking about actions. Subscribe to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal. Sorry, not the end yet. But I find it ironic that we're talking about actions, because the only two people in this race that have literally nonstop been about the action are Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. And by the way, feel free to correct me. People know this. I am more than okay with being corrected in good faith. I get it. Some people are smarter than me. I've accepted it. It's fine. At least better research, and that's also okay. So if you have a critique, let me know. But if it's the Consumer Protections Bureau that she's not in charge of and she doesn't run, I'm glad she put it together. It was like her brainchild. Cool. But this is 2019, baby. What have you done for me lately? That's the question that we're asking. And if you're running for president, I wouldn't put such a strong standard on her if others hadn't already done such a fantastic job by setting a ridiculously high standard. For example, I'll go with Tulsi. Securing America's Elections Act. The OFF Act in 2017, and we'll be reintroducing the OFF Act again. She told me officially that they are just perfecting it. That's it. That's all they're doing right now. It was already great before, which I think most of you can agree with. She's making it better right now. She is literally making it better, updating it, putting more urgency on climate change and the time frame we need to have these solutions in right now. It's going to be introduced again. So not only did she introduce legislation once, but she's done it twice. And she did it with the Securing America's Elections Act as well. She introduced the amendment that ultimately makes the LGBTQ community a protected class under the equal rights laws and fair housing laws. Oh, that's for your little comment about her horrible comments about the LGBTQ community that you still have not used. Quote her dad when she was 21 standing beside him. Yeah, literally co-sponsored legislation, created legislation to make the LGBTQ that entire community a protected class. But she ain't got no actions. And it's crazy because actions speak louder than words. So even if Tulsi said, I'm against gay marriage, but she voted for gay marriage 100% of the time, she voted for the LGBTQ community 100%. I don't give a damn what you say, because I agree, Anna. I'm right there in that boat with you. Actions do speak louder than words. And 100% voting record don't lie about a damn thing. It speaks louder than anything. But hey, Stop Arming Terrorists Act. That's what she introduced. Not talked about, introduced. She also talks about the financing of terrorism and introduced legislation to stop financing terrorism. That's an action. She said the words, then she was about that action. She said I had 100% voting record on the LGBTQ community, and then she's about the action. She said we have to do something about election integrity. Then she's about the action. Stop arming terrorists, about the action. Stop financing terrorism, about the actions. Hey, I'm not voting for the Green New Deal because it doesn't go far enough. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to introduce legislation to take it as far as we need to go. About the action. Anna, what the fuck are you talking about? Actions speak louder than words. No, there's only one action that speaks louder, or one action, period, that speaks louder than any other action or anyone else's words. It's that you got your little feelings hurt. I don't know what happened that day at TYT, but I do know that Jane brought her back. I do know that you got roasted in your own comment section. I do know that you got your little feelings hurt. So now you got a personal vendetta out against Tulsi. Bernie Also, Bezos Act, Medicare for All, the Yemen bill he co-sponsored, along with the bill in Congress that Tulsi co-sponsored. Medicare for All. Those are bills. I'm sure he's done more than that at this point. But those are actions. Bernie talks about it and then he's like, okay, let's do something about it. I don't got time for the finger wagging Warren. I don't got time for that whiplash Warren. Like, sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But you are either being accidentally ignorant or you're purposely ignoring facts because you've dug your hole so deep. You are so committed to this narrative that Tulsi isn't progressive. And by the way, I know y'all weren't really at the convention. You know, Anna she ain't down to come. Even though it's in California, she's not like us common folks, us commoners, or us common independent journalists. She's too good to show up to conventions. God forbid she do her job as a journalist and go actually see how people feel about Tulsi Gabbard. Because what she would have found out, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen in the various videos I've posted to the YouTube story and on my Instagram page and even on Twitter, Tulsi was surrounded. Tulsi was bombarded. The only people who didn't like Tulsi were the establishment California delegates. But I was there. I was in the press box at the front of the stage where when Kirsten Gillibrand spoke, it was actually pretty empty. But when Tulsi Gabbard spoke, everybody, and this is the press just alone, the press alone bombarded the stage. Bombarded it. When she left the stage, people who were supporting other establishment politicians ran up to her. When she was outside, people were there. Progressives, by the way. Hell, people who were voting for Trump before were out there in San Francisco. A Trump voter told me straight to my face, I'm out here now and I voted for Trump. Tulsi 2020 shirt on. No, I'm not advocating for anybody here in particular to vote for, I got my videos for that. That's not what I'm talking about right now. What I'm saying is, clearly Anna has issues. If she really believes that somehow Elizabeth Warren is progressive and also simultaneously advocates for us to forgive her past and understand that her environment shaped her views. But when it came to Tulsi, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to not only ignore her responses, but ignore the legislation, ignore her voting record on these issues, ignore her consistency. Her ideological consistency is probably the most impressive thing about her. Has been incredible at being able to separate how she may have been personally raised with politics or with her votes, excuse me. I don't get it. But it just seems to me that you have like a personal vendetta with her that like you need to settle between you and her. I'm sure if you reached out to her in good faith, if you had a one-on-one conversation with her and said sorry because an apology is more than deserved, then she might be willing to do a one-on-one interview with you. I'm sure, because she's that type of person. She really is. When Cenk messed up, he invited her back. One-on-one interview. They have a pretty amicable relationship now. But the thing is, Cenk was actually apologetic. You could see the remorse about how he felt about that last interview where you complained that you didn't get to ask your questions, but the questions that he asked half of them were from your damn video. All of them. He added some more on there, but all the critiques were from your video. Even the horrible ones. And then real quick before I go, it was funny because she told me that I'm arguing basically on Twitter. She told me that I'm arguing as if I'm hired by the Tulsi campaign. Well, I'm not, first of all, but let me be very, very clear about something. Very, very, very. Before Tulsi Gabbard announced, I was very clear about my support for Bernie Sanders. I'm still clear about my support for Bernie Sanders. Don't get it twisted. But I advocated strong for Bernie Sanders. And specifically, very specifically in the cases where people would lie on Bernie. And you all know me now. Is this not true? Do I not go hard for Bernie when someone lies on him or about him? When people try and play the black or white thing with Bernie's voting record, I go at them about that. But nobody's ever accused me, oh, you must be working for Bernie, or you must have a crush on Bernie. That's why you're defending her. You must be working for Bernie. That's why you're defending him. You must be receiving money from Bernie's campaign. That's why you're defending him. Isn't that interesting? We have YouTubers that have defended Bernie, and rightfully so. Don't get it wrong. Sometimes wrong, but in good faith, rightfully so. Defended Bernie Sanders, have advocated for Bernie Sanders, who will not shut up about Bernie Sanders. With AOC, defended AOC no matter what. Whatever. Defended her, stood up for her. Do any of them get, they have whenever David Dole just puts on his cape for AOC and flies to the rescue every single time for every single thing she's ever done right or wrong, do people say David Dole like AOC? Do they say he has a crush on her? Big Herbs. I'm Team Bernie and Tulsi. Turn up. One time for the one time. Appreciate the super chat. Do you ever hear anybody say that? Use those smears, those attacks? But why not? Because the entire internet, everybody on YouTube, that's progressive, I should say, except for maybe 1.5, they believe that AOC can do no wrong, even though she has done wrong. I'm not saying she's a bad person, but she's been wrong. Do people say that those men who defend her have crushes on her? Do others say that they must be working for Tulsi or for AOC? For Bernie, who has an active campaign right now, there are people who never critique him, never ask him to go even farther on his left in some of his policies, in some of his advocacy. Do those people ever get accused of working for Bernie? But I am one of the 3 or 4 YouTubers in total that I give a lot of coverage to Tulsi, but guess what? Go through the details, people. I give a lot of coverage to Bernie. Some people like the Tulsi coverage more than the Bernie. Some people like the Bernie coverage more than the Tulsi coverage. That's why I do both. I give a lot of coverage to AOC as well. The bad, the good, the great, all of it. But I get accused of working for Bernie when I defend him, I don't get accused of working for Bernie when I defend him, but I get accused of working for Tulsi when I defend her. That's just really weird. Don't you feel like there might be a problem with that? And the reason is, in my humble opinion, is the fact that, well, who's the only one standing up and refusing to have other people say, you know what? Like, she's not, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that they're working together in some capacity. But I'm saying is Tulsi is not waiting for Bernie to allow her to have her turn to run for office. She says, I believe that I am the best one to run this country and the world. And for some reason, that really, especially when you're doing it and Bernie Sanders is also running, because there is kind of a cult of personality / it's not, I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, because Bernie has built his audience and initiated a revolution that will live on through legitimately centuries, I believe. That's not a bad, what Bernie's done is not a bad thing. However, the attitude that's created towards Tulsi, who people see as a person who, one, stands in his way and stands in their way of being victorious that the victory that they attach to Bernie Sanders. They don't attach their victories, like myself, I attach victories to the movement, to progressivism, to moving forward. If either Tulsi or Bernie won, I think that's a victory for myself personally. But there are people in their minds, so if Bernie wins, or so if Tulsi wins, then it's not a victory for them because well, not even not a victory for them. They consider it a loss. That's how they look at it right now. There are also people out there, politicians and otherwise, who see Tulsi as a legitimate threat as a woman. Because everybody, I don't give a shit what demographic you are, you have competitions within your own personal demographic. Black men try to out black men. White people try to out white people, other white people. Those are called Koch brothers. Like, these are things. It happens. That's oftentimes how minorities are co-opted into the establishment. Is that they tell us that, hey, we'll put you in a position to be more successful than the other people who look like you. And that's just kind of a thing. Whatever. So, when people see Tulsi not waiting for someone to tell her, to tell her wait, when people see Tulsi as a woman getting such love and adulation from so many different types of people, so many different demographics, and all this love, all this adulation, all this respect that is coming for her could potentially lead to her being the first woman president. Young, gorgeous, very intelligent, veteran. And all of that came from every time you play games with the establishment, I'm going to call you out and do the opposite. Every time you allow a man to keep you in a particular bubble, whether it be leadership or otherwise, I will burst through that bubble. Whereas others harp on identity politics. You know what Tulsi said the other day? She said, I would be insulted if anyone supported me because I'm a woman or because I'm Hindu or because I'm Polynesian. I want you to support me because of my policies and nothing else. So when everyone else focuses on identity politics, she's saying, nope, because I know on my merits, I'm the best one. And you think that she hasn't been held back because of her identity? You think she hasn't been held back because she's a woman at any point in her life? You would be wrong. You would be wrong. But she's not going to harp on that as a reason you should vote for her. Because she has to overcome certain things like being a woman who's progressive, going up against an old white guy who's also progressive, means that people, by nature, by the way, are going to gravitate towards Bernie. They're quicker to forgive Bernie. Once again, I'm not saying that both of them are perfect. It's the opposite. They're quicker to forgive Bernie. But then Tulsi supporters are said to be making excuses, even though most of their arguments are smears anyway. But they're said to be making excuses for why we support Tulsi rather than supporting Bernie in a vote situation. But Bernie's imperfect just like Tulsi. Both of them are imperfect. But people are quicker to defend Bernie and even attack you or Tulsi for this. And that has something to do, that there is, the fact that she's a woman has something to do with that. Because she should be waiting her turn, basically. And I'm not saying that based off of just some abstract thought and consideration from his. No, I'm saying that because does AOC stand up to Bernie in any way, form, or fashion? No. She's an ally. She pretends to be on Bernie's side. She might support him really, but I don't know. But she, at least on the surface, looks like she's completely on Bernie's side. Of course, people welcome her and defend her no matter what. And defending her will never be questioned in the same way that someone adamantly defending AOC will never be questioned the same way as adamantly defending Bernie. Or Tulsi, excuse me. Adamantly defending Nina, which I also do, would never be questioned. They don't say you get checks from our revolution defending Nina Turner. They don't say that. But it would never be questioned the same way that questioning Tulsi Gabbard will receive criticism. But the one woman who advocates for everything Bernie does domestically. Everything that Bernie and if you lie like you don't know that, you're arguing in bad faith. Domestically, she's Bernie Sanders plus and then some in a lot of ways. So you can't pretend like Bernie's better at domestic policies. And then it's better than Bernie on foreign relations. That person, you get attacked for bolstering and celebrating and saying, well, if she can do it, others can and should be able. If she can be on the right side of history on the most critical issues of today, then everybody should be able to do the same, because it's common sense stuff. Then she gets attacked and has to defend herself more than the average white male would have to. There was more criticism of why Tulsi held a specific view while she was 21 years old than there was criticism from, and that, by the way, there are current Tulsi supporters who also had that critique of her. Then they did the research. But there was more criticism from progressives about that than there has ever been criticisms and the welcoming of criticism about Bernie when it came to Julian Assange in 2019. When Bernie was selling, when the day Julian Assange got arrested, people critiqued him, rightfully so. They celebrated Tulsi. And it's not a blanket statement, it's not a generalization, but a lot of people, if you ever called out Bernie for that, they were going on the attack. But if the roles were reversed and Bernie was the one doing the right thing as far as Julian Assange on that day, and Tulsi was silent, do you believe progressives would have been as forgiving of Tulsi as they were demanding people be forgiving of Bernie? These are the facts. So while I'm saying that there is a component where people see Tulsi as like everything they've wanted to be, that's men and women. When men come up to me every day telling me, I'm trying to channel my inner Tulsi, I'm trying to channel my inner Aloha. That's men and women. But there is a specific type of women who may have felt like they sacrificed some of their integrity, that they sacrificed some of their values, that they have ambition, right? This is something I say about AOC. And this is an analysis that I've gotten from women, by the way, that are talking to women, I should say. AOC, in the way she goes about her business by completely ignoring Tulsi and bolstering Elizabeth Warren, given all the extenuating circumstances, right? I don't want to go into all of them, but, not supporting the OFF Act despite the fact she campaigned on it, constantly mentioning Kamala, Warren, Bernie, and never, ever mentioning Tulsi as a potential endorsement. It's because she knows Warren has zero chance. Warren is not a threat. And AOC she got glitter in her eyes when it comes to that Oval Office. She wants to be the first female president. She wants to be the youngest. Tulsi would take both of those titles if she wins and would set the standard so high that it's very likely she'll get reelected. Then the person that she supports in 2028, 2029, something like that. No. Yeah, 2028, 2029. That's who would be next in line. But the title of the first and the youngest would be out of the window for AOC at that point. And it's clear that she does have... So, ambition is fine. But, we can't debate and argue over what's right in front of us and ignore these facts. We can debate over what I'm saying is we can't ignore the facts. And we should be debating and discussing these issues, because I do believe that Tulsi has faced disproportionate criticism, while simultaneously people like Warren are constantly defended by progressives, the same progressives who constantly criticize Tulsi. So, real quick, I'll take 3 questions. I'm gonna try to answer them in a span of 5 minutes. I'm gonna take 3 questions. They don't have to be super chats this particular time. So in the comment section, As long as it isn't anything crazy. Write questions, and I will see which ones most apply to this particular situation, and I answer. Somebody said, "Is did AOC sell out? Why didn't she endorse Bernie yet?" I don't think AOC has necessarily sold out. I think that's, we should be very clear when we're criticizing AOC, because she hasn't taken the money, okay? And that's kind of a clear prerequisite for selling out. But also, she is in an echo chamber, and she has some not so good people around her because of just being too damn nice to not have them around her. Right? So I want to be clear about that. Making a bad decision doesn't necessarily mean you have sold out. She's made some bad decisions. She's made some great decisions. But when she does make a bad decision, I think it should be addressed, and people should not be attacked for those, for addressing or asking. Like, for her to ignore that her chief of staff, her current chief of staff, unilaterally took money away. By the way, I had this reconfirmed this past weekend. Unilaterally took money away from the Justice Democrats who needed the money, according to someone who worked with Justice Democrats. They needed the money for other campaigns. He funneled millions of dollars into Brand New Congress, BNC, into an LLC unilaterally for purposes unknown. And AOC was like, we didn't break any laws. That's not what we said. We didn't say you broke a law. We said that you did some unethical shit, or not you, but he did some unethical shit. Unethical shit that actually had nothing to do with AOC, but because it's the chief of staff, she felt the need to defend him instead of saying we'll get to the bottom of it and deal with it. And that's a fact. So I don't think that she's a bad person. I don't think that she's bought and sold yet. I think her two biggest issues are being naive, not having the right people around her as well, and ambition. I think those are her two biggest flaws. But everybody has flaws. Let's see what else we have. Is this election year going to rip progressives apart? No, I don't think it'll rip progressives apart. So at the convention, what I noticed is that this election year really separates progressives from opportunists, because, and this is something I'm going to talk about in another video in a second, but the amount of love between the Bernie people and the Tulsi people at this convention was unbelievable. It did not mirror what you see on social media. It did not. So in other words, the people who are active, the people who are in the trenches, the people that are fighting, they're fighting side by side with each other. And don't get it twisted though. There are a few people who do try and dichotomize and even in some cases undercut Tulsi's campaign because they want to see Bernie win over Tulsi. But like I said, you know how I feel. I'm about putting people in the position to educate the masses and letting the people decide. But there are some people who make decisions that undercut that ability. But it's not the norm. I believe by the end of this movement, some people will get exposed. Anna, clearly, for example. People have already been exposed. I believe that the real populists, the real progressives, will come to light. And then you'll know who to go to. Like, yeah, you can go to some people for commentary, for example, when it comes to the independent journalists. Other people for your analyses, different. When it comes to guiding the movement forward, that's a different category. And I think that will also, that dichotomy will be furthered throughout this entire electoral process, because you're going to find out something a lot of people have already realized, but you're going to find out that some people don't have as much of a grip on these politics as they like to think they are, but they're constantly demanding you listen to them and do what they tell you to do with your vote, as if they do understand what happens in politics and how political change comes about. And I got one more. Do I think Trump will win in 2020? if Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders doesn't win, yeah, he'll win. And the reason why isn't necessarily even at this point because he's popular, but mostly because in order for Tulsi or Bernie to not win, the Democrats have to cheat both of them. And it will be blatantly obvious once again. And if it's blatantly obvious once again, with all the people who are now paying attention, more than before, by the way, more people than before are paying attention, it's very unlikely for them to pull. Because, yeah, a lot of people hated Hillary, cool, whatever. But do you think that these other candidates are not going to get exposed? Like, yeah, it's less, except for Kamala, it's less exposure right now, but Joe Biden's already getting dragged. He's done. He couldn't beat Trump right now if he wanted to. Kamala already got dragged. Those are top two candidates right there. The only one who kinda is okay, still was a Republican before, still has basically thrown Palestinians under the bus time and time again. Voted for every major war, every major budget increase. She voted against this recent one, I think, supposedly, but voted for every other one. But the recent one was only $18 million or $18 billion increase. I said only, but compared to 50 and 70 billion, yeah. This one she did for nominal reasons, just to say she voted against it. But the big one she already voted for. Aloha, boy. Thanks for the super chat. Mahalo for everything you do. Speaking the truth to power. Super proud to support you. Lots of love and aloha to you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, the only way, because Trump, don't get it twisted, his popularity is wavering. But it's weird because he has conditional popularity when it comes when you're talking about relative to the Democrats, I guess I should say. It's conditional popularity. His popularity is as strong as Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders are weakened, I should say, by the Democratic Party. If they continue to weaken Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard, or attempt to, Trump's strength will grow. His ability to win will grow. Because people will just leave the Democratic Party. And a lot of people are very one-track minded. They think very Hegelian and say, okay, screw it. If the Democrats don't want to take care of me, I'm just going to vote for Trump. That's how a lot of people ended up voting for Trump to begin with. They said the outsider isn't going to come out of the Democratic Party. I'm going to vote for the outsider, quote unquote, in the Republican Party. So, Lord knows we really can't use another 4 years of Trump. You get no argument out of me there. But here's the problem. And this is a real problem. We also can't really stand another 4 years of neoliberals because those same ones are the ones who put Bolton back in, put Bolton in charge once upon a time, Pompeo in charge once upon a time, Elliot Abrams in charge once upon a time. These neoliberals don't and haven't really separated themselves in any meaningful way. So we can't stand another 4 years of Trump, but it's in the same way we can't stand another 4 years of neoliberalism, which is basically 4 years of Trump with a smile and a pat on the back, with a gay person or two who might be in power. That's about it. So with that being said, people, thank you all for tuning into that live stream segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Stick around. I'll be going live again here, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to wet my whistle, take a little break, and then we're going to cover some other stuff. So with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that notification bell to get all of our notifications. And of course, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by supporting the show by donating as little as $1. You can click on the link in the description below for that. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Thanks for watching that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Roku TV, and on JustNForm.com. Also, you can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel by going to the subscribe button, pressing it, and hitting that